Let's roll, rolling at the start. We here to bring the truth. Jar open this podcast. We breaking through the fake news. They try to silence us, but we will be subdued. We're bearded alpha males here to save the youth. Spitting fire on the mic with our bass Christian takes. Exposing the lies, keeping the demons at bay. We ain't afraid to speak up. We won't be swayed. Jar open this podcast where the truth is laid. Jar openers, cracking open the lies. We're rolling Atlas up. We're here to rise. Bearded alpha males saving the youth from the godless demons, spreading the truth. We ain't playing games, we're on a mission to awaken the masses with our intuition. Pulling out the corruption with no inhibition. Jar open this podcast, sparking a revolution. We're not afraid to stand tall in a world full of deceit. We're the voice of reason, bringing light to the street. Keeping it real, never missing a beat. Jar open this podcast where the truth meets the heat. Jar openers, cracking open the lies. We're rolling Atlas up, we're here to rise. Bearded alpha males saving the youth from the godless demons, spreading the truth. Jar open this podcast where the truth will never cease. Join us on the journey to bring back peace. We're rolling Atlas thugs, fearless in our release. Jar open this podcast where the lies will decrease.
All right. What's up, y'all? Hey, just me. Glad you were first. Barely beat TNT Cycles. What's up, TNT?
I don't think you heard that, but I think there were like 4 intros playing at one time.
Was it really?
Yeah, you're echoing really bad.
Uh-oh. Hang
There's
on.
a loop going on.
Let me try to fix this.
Something's replaying and re-looping. Dude, I tried to private messaging you, but I don't think you saw it.
All right, let me see here. Try to listen to myself.
It just did it again.
It's coming through the stream, okay?
Is it? Okay.
Huh. You got like a phone?
Oh, I see what was going on. You're totally right. That was me.
Okay. I was like, dude, I don't know what I changed.
Yep. Sorry, everybody. Okay. It's because I got my YouTube opened up on one other app because we set the super goal or the super chat goal earlier.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
False alarm. My bad, everyone.
You gotta mute yourself when you do that. No, that's cool. All right.
Right.
I was easy fix.
Yeah.
Okay, so what's up, everybody? What up, House? Good to see you there, bud. I assume that you going like this, that little symbol. You do that. I've been meaning to ask you, what does that mean? That you like saluting? I don't know.
Yeah, 07.
Is it like short for 007?
I'm actually not entirely too sure what the actual origin of it is, but yeah, I think it is a salute.
Okay, yeah, salute. That's what I've always assumed. Oh, I wanted to ask you, but usually I notice it at the end of the show and the music's playing, and then I forget later on to mention it in the Discord or whatever. But good to see everybody here. Got a few people still filing in. Got a nice amount of things to talk about tonight, just as usual. The news is going so fast nowadays, but yeah, just me. Make sure you switch to all messages if you haven't already, because YouTube's default only will make you miss some of the chat. But we're going to talk about the Delta Airlines unmanned disaster. They like to advertise themselves as being unmanned because they prefer hire women. And with that comes all of the DEI issues that we have been experiencing over the last, I don't know, probably goes back further than we even know, honestly. But let's see here. The United States designates multiple cartels as terrorist organizations. There's some questions floating around in the conservative space relating to would the government go so far as to use bombs and that type of weapons like within the United States against a terrorist organization? So valid concerns from people, and we're kind of curious about that ourselves. I did see some training stuff going on there. People try to, well, we'll get into that a little bit later, but I did see briefly some people tried to frame military gearing up as they were gonna like raid Mexico, and it turns out it was mostly a training type of thing or whatever. But we'll dig into that a little bit. The black gay lesbian from Wicked, the one with the green face that they plastered everywhere. I expect most people probably didn't watch the movie. Being a kid that grew up in Kansas, I've always appreciated The Wizard of Oz, but I couldn't see Wicked. It's a little too yeah, not for me, right? And then so she's gonna play Jesus in Jesus Christ Superstar, which has its own issues as it is. Anyways, Steve Bannon takes a shot at Elon Musk. JD Vance predicts that the UK will become Islamist. I don't know. I say how I want. The Trump administration could suspend some of the COVID vaccinations, and we got to be careful with that topic. You guys know how the YouTubes are, but and we also have Trump floats giving the Doge savings back to Americans, or at least a portion of it. And we got some takes on that as well. I'm curious what you guys think in chat on just generally, should they, like, they're saving all this money from Doge, but should they start redistributing what they're saving, not charge us in the first place, essentially, or maybe potentially what they're floating, which is a 20% of what they're saving might go back to the Americans via like their tax returns or something like that. So I don't know, kind of yet to be seen. But my main thing with that, as long as they continue to cut the wasteful spending, and then we can go from there. I think that would save us a lot on the front end as individuals.
Right.
Let's see here.
Always a bunch of news, always generally gay and fake. And, just another beautiful day.
right. Layman Shepherd mentions that Delta. Oh wait, chat moved on me. Delta says not to speculate what caused the crash. I sure know something that didn't cause it though. It was not caused by men. That's pretty funny. But let's see. Chat's moving a little fast.
Men would never crash a plane.
Yeah,
men are 10,000, 18, and 1. Crashing planes. 9/11's just a blip.
That was on purpose. That was actually precision.
Yeah, actually true. Real.
House mentions that it's blasphemous what they're doing with the witch from Wicked. Predator drones send in the troops. Yeah, TNT, I think we're more likely to use Predator drones than to send troops. And I doubt we would use anything on American soil. That's pretty much where I kind of come from as well. We'll dig into these topics a little bit deeper, but he also mentioned he'd rather they use 50% to pay down the debt, 50% to go back to taxpayers and invest ourselves, or maybe apply it to Social Security or something like that. I don't know. There's a lot of things that they could do. Maybe it was just that time of month. Good Lord. Well, if they're flying at the same time, they might have synced up. What up, Titan? Hey, Knights of Gideon's here. What's up, guys?
Hey, what's up, guys? We say at least you're not in Canada as far as gay. My friend had to go visit her dying brother, and wow.
Oh, that sucks.
Yeah. Apologies for that. My condolences for that, too.
I've been meaning to mention something to Atlas about reaching out to you guys. I think he has a better line of communication with you than I do. I think we just maybe follow each other on X and maybe X. I don't even know if you guys are on X, to be honest. I thought I remember following you at some point. But maybe we should have you on, is what I was thinking. We should have you guys on. It's been a while since you were on with Atlas, but we've never actually had you on the jar openers. So something maybe down the line.
Yeah, definitely can. Tell you what, it's gonna be way easier to do it in StreamYard than we did on doing it through what's it called, man? What was that program I was using? Ninja VMod is what I was using.
Oh yeah. That was rather difficult to figure out the first time we got together on the show. Wasn't even jar openers yet, but we did a couple streams beforehand.
Yeah.
And
Also want to say, if you're exasperated, tired of going to the church that you're going to, hearing the same old tired, fake, pro-modern sensibility messages, check out Knights of Gideon. I'm sure they'll definitely have content that'll be a breath of fresh air for you.
yeah, definitely. Just me says, I think they should just wipe the debt clean 100%. We've done so much for everyone in the world. They need to just go ahead and forget about ever getting any money from us, in my opinion. That would be great, but I learned just recently that Japan holds a bunch of war bonds that, United States war bonds, and I guess they're who we owe the most money to. I always thought it was China for some reason, but Patrick Bet David, I think, was the one that was breaking it down and said that they own like 1 point something trillion in war bonds, or I can't even remember the number, but I was like, oh wow, that's crazy. I never even thought of it like that,
Yeah, well, probably less of an issue when they're a distinct kind of ally to
But
us.
I
I mean, I wouldn't say ally, but most likely, definitely not an enemy.
Right, that's for sure. But we do spend a lot protecting their country at this rate, and at some point, um, you got to start chalking up because this kind of goes along with what I've been thinking about with NATO, because Dave Smith has been floating the idea of the U.S. leaving NATO, and it's like we owe, or we fit the bill for so many years that if we just kind of hit the reset button now, we still wasted a lot of money in the past. So it's almost like maybe knock some off the debt, knock some off of, I don't know. I'm just ready for things to go back our direction. You know what I mean? Rather than just clear the deck and wipe it clean, I would kind of like to see some things come back our direction. And, we finally are on the benefiting side of things for once. You know what I mean? Rather than just being the world's piggy bank and everybody holding us to account of, like Pierce Morgan thinks that the United States should spare no expense in defeating Russia and driving them out of all the territory that they've taken, and it's the Americans' responsibility. And it's just like, no,
Well,
I can't.
That starts with the fact that we got to start manufacturing things here. The United States is predominantly, I believe we're at like a 70 or 80 percentile of everything that everyone does is services. We do very little in terms of manufacturing here. So if we want to get on the underside of that and, be energy independent, be big pharma independent, all of those different industries, we have to actually be making things here and provide the incentives to make things here. Otherwise, we'll never get out of this, never ending cycle of always having to import more kind of actual valuable goods than we're actually exporting. I mean, our number one export is, in my opinion, and I believe it's also probably true, is this kind of neoliberal idea of this global homo jihad stuff. That's what we send. I mean, we see it in the USAID stuff all the time. 30,000 for Pakistan to do gay transgender stuff, 40 grand to go do a gay transgender opera. But that's all we can really give to other countries right now. Our manufacturing bases are super, super low. I believe there's a very few that we do here. I think automotive might be the biggest industry we do manufacture in here. I know that Honda's actually headquartered about, used to be 30 minutes from me, but now they're headquartered like 10 minutes from me here in Ohio. So there's something there too, but I believe Honda's also predominantly Asian owned as well. So there's like different things in there that kind of like actually have a bit to play. It won't change until we start manufacturing here, but that's also the incentives as well. And that goes along with a lot of the arguments we even saw that came from the H-1B visa discussion, which is they want to compete on that. But the reality is the countries we're buying and importing from, like China, use slave labor. So if we go on that route, I mean, are we really going to, do we want to make people work on the kind of slave labor scale metric? I mean, does that mean you have to work 80 hours a week just to survive with your family? So there's all these different questions that have to be answered along there too. Ultimately, the reality is I think no. I mean, people just need to be paid for it. They need to be paid well for it. That's the reason why people are so unwilling to take a job at Honda, because who wants to be paid, $12 an hour to pick up a car door and put it on a vehicle 8 hours a day for the rest of their lives and get very little benefit for it.
Right.
And the automotive, your body doing that too.
Yeah, in the automotive industry, I know a buddy that used to, well, I think he still does, works for Ford, and he gets laid off just randomly. Then they rehire him, and then they lay him off, and they're like, "Oh, well, we don't got work for 2 weeks, so you're laid off." Boom. It's just like,
Right.
that's that's kind of a rough way to live, especially if you got a family. I know he's got 2 kids and stuff, and his wife works, but it's not ideal for a lot of people, especially if you're living paycheck to paycheck. So yeah, that's a rough industry to work in. It'd be nice to have the hours and the hourly pay be worth it.
Yeah, Knights of Gideon. Well, I was going to say he mentioned the East Liberty
Okay.
test site, and they do have I haven't seen it in a while. I mean, it's been a while since I drove past it, but they do have a test site there for Honda where they test like brand new vehicles. This massive, like this track. Actually, my little brother used to work there for a short time, and they would pay people seasonal jobs, high school kids even too, 16, 17, 18-year-olds. You know, if you want to come test drive our vehicles on this massive track, you can get paid for it. You just got to make sure you're doing like different things as you're driving to like measure the different metrics there. But yeah, I forgot that was a thing. So there is at least a big kind of base local to me, but I'm sure that doesn't stretch for most of the country, if not all the country.
Yeah, I was gonna say, who was it that made the comment up here? I think it might have been House. Yeah, House said England can't fill a soccer stadium with all of its armed forces. You know, I don't know where I saw this. You know, I'm always just searching through content, and I can't remember. We didn't mention it on the show. Uh, Correct me if stop me if we talked about this last show, but
Stop.
right. I saw it was like a video or somebody giving a breakdown of like NATO soldiers or English soldiers or whatever in Desert Storm, or maybe not Desert Storm, I think it was Afghanistan. And they were talking about American soldiers, and they're like, the weakest American soldier on the army base or whatever that I was at was stronger than the strongest European soldier. And if you got in the shit and you called for help, you hoped that it was American battalion that came to rescue you, because they would come and shut down the scenario and get you out of there. They had a plan, and not only that, they knew more about the situation that you were in than you did before they got there.
Yeah.
And I mean,
I
it's
think you
crazy.
mentioned that, but I saw the video of it too. I don't know if you had saw that same video, but there's a
I think
video
it
that
was
was going to be floated like an ad.
yeah, I think that's what it was. But it's like, holy crap, like that's pretty messed up. Like, I mean, I love my American brothers, but I'm proud of them or whatever, but I didn't realize like the other countries, our allies can't hold a candle to us like that. I mean, it's just crazy that, and
Yeah.
I've seen this like try to train the Afghanistan soldiers, and I remember seeing these dudes couldn't do jumping jacks. Grown men were just so uncoordinated. They couldn't do a jumping jack. They couldn't do anything. And you're just like, wow, how do people get to this stage of life and be so uncoordinated, and men particularly?
What's
But
crazy with it too is the sexual selection aspect of it. Being in this extreme kind of first world society, although a lot of times it might not seem it for a lot of people who are struggling, um, America's actually kind of separated itself, with its average height, average wrist strength or average grip strength for males. Now our metrics are pretty low in comparison to other things too, especially when you look at youth as well. But I just seen a thing with Indian men, right? India has like 1 point some billion people in it, but if you go by like grip strength and wrist circumference, I mean, they can't even hold a candle to the average female in the United States. So
wow.
that's how far we're kind of like genetically maneuvering ourselves forward. Um, no, but everyone's kind of unhealthy and sad and sick and fat. But there is a level of like strength that's still there because there is a good amount of sexual selection that happens, even if it's on like the on a bell curve, pretty extreme in some cases. The average American's pretty fat, but overall, we probably still have like the highest density of people who are willing and capable to do combat.
Well, no wonder they want to cut off the the kids and transgender them and everything like that. I mean, they're trying to
Right.
weaken us from the youth. But yeah, let's get into this first one here from Delta Airlines. Let me oh, you know what? I didn't even stage that. Give me 1 second. I meant to do it after the song ended. If I would have done it during the intro song, I would have put it on the screen.
No, I threw you off because I'm retarded and I heard multiple things happening.
Oh yeah, then that happened.
Yeah.
Share audio. All right. Get off my screen. I don't want to see you. Getting all these pop-ups from StreamYard. So we got this one. This was obviously let me turn that volume down. This was the Delta Airlines flight that landed too hard, essentially. I've seen some pilots talk about it, and They basically said they didn't. I'm not a pilot, but I think if I remember the word correctly, they didn't flare at the end or something, and they descended too fast, and it caused the right wheel, I believe, to break off. And you guys have probably heard the story by now, but then it flipped upside down. Thankfully, as of right now, at least what I've read is it was 6:30 this evening. So as of an hour ago, nobody has perished from this, which is why I'm comfortable actually showing it on the show. But this is pretty crazy. The fact that we got the video of this.
Oh wait, dang it! The pilot survived. No, I'm just kidding. Or am I?
That's why I laughed. That's why I laughed. But this is crazy. And then I think they also said that it was like 70-mile-an-hour winds that day. Not good conditions. You can see the wind whipping across the concrete down here, whipping the snow around. You obviously have a bunch of ice, snow drifts. Not the most ideal scenario to be landing a jet in, but I mean, didn't see this one coming, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's a miracle that people survive. They probably survived by the proxy of the fact that they were going so fast. They didn't kind of impact in a direct spot that kind of contained the explosion in a short area. Probably more so the fact that when it rolled and went through,
Right.
moving away from the explosion, giving them a chance to get away. But that comment from Layman Shepherd is hilarious. You know, when their husbands picked them up that day, the pilots still told their husbands how to drive on the way home. Actually, what really happened was when the husband got there, he parked the vehicle and he got in the passenger seat before anything was said. He had the car nice for him and ready for her to drive him all the way home.
That's really funny. You know what? I added the wrong my wrong screen to that. Let me adjust this. I got to gotta add the right one, man. To try to drag it over and showed everybody our outline for a second.
Yeah.
Let's see here. I'll get this figured out one of these days. It's only our 51st show.
Right. Maybe by the 151st.
As long as we're constantly getting better. So yeah, there was I did see here, this is they're offering, the Delta Airlines is offering 30,000 to every individual that was on the plane as well. Was on the jet as well. That's the report that
I would hand the $30,000 back and be like, just take this back and fire all of the women. Delete every one of your ridiculous TikTok posts. Be a normal company. Hire people based on merit. And just never attempt this ever again.
Tix Bomber said, "We all have bad days, hon." That's what they said when they got in the car.
Yeah. But I mean, this is like the whole, this goes, I mean, people think of things in very simple terms when it comes to like the male female dichotomy of like, well, you know, women shouldn't be cops, right? Because obviously there's a lot of physical aspects in that. Women shouldn't be firefighters. There's also a lot of physical aspects in that. But there's also other aspects where we're going down to things such as like reaction time, reflexes, hand-eye coordination, all of these things that men are on, have a much greater margin of ability in compared to females. And when you see such a overt kind of push, rather maybe a bragging nature with what these videos are showing that they're doing this, is like they're essentially bragging that like they have a bunch of underqualified females there. You know, me personally, I, even without the females involved there too, I'm not ever going to fly again because I can't trust the Boeing I'm going to get in wasn't made by some black Wee was Kang female who didn't do her job right and door might come off. So there's all of these other things here where we're sacrificing just the most basic principle of making good product. And when you do it on a level of like anything goes wrong, the most slightest thing goes wrong, you lose the pressurized cabin, all of this stuff there too. I mean, it's over. I mean, your life is over. Your family's life is over. I mean, unless you're on a business trip, and more than likely people traveling or with their families.
Right.
It's like instantly lineages get wiped out. And it's like, yeah, you want me to take that risk because like you want to have a TikTok of a bunch of girls? Like that's your goal? Like, yeah, never get me on that plane ever.
Right. I mean, we just saw families be taken out I remember in that one that nosedived in Pennsylvania last week. Is headed to like Wichita, Kansas, I think, and then they're ultimately going back to Mexico after the little girl had the surgery or whatever, I think, right, was the scenario. And there was people like I knew everybody on that jet, like not everybody literally, but and talking about I lost a bunch of friends, I lost a bunch of family, like it's definitely like you said, there's an exception where maybe you go on a business trip or you're traveling alone or whatever, but yeah,
Yeah.
not for
Well, I mean,
me.
think about it from like a pro perspective too. It's like, well, what do we want? What do we want as Christian conservatives? We want to get to a place where we are promoting women being in the home and taking care of their children. If anyone has any idea how the life of a pilot goes, it's like it's even more ridiculous than the semi truck driver. Like if you're going on a flight, like you're on a schedule where you're going to be sleeping in Florida, then Wichita, then you might be in Iowa, depending on what your flight schedule is. You're going to be away from the home for multiple days. So just even on like the most basic sense too, it's like, no, women shouldn't be pilots because why would you take a position where you're going to be away from your children for multiple days on end?
Right.
Like that's not the order of which we should be promoting anything, even outside of the sense of like their physical ability. You look at it from the pro sense of if we want as conservatives women to be more acclimated to the role of staying in the home, taking care of children, while the men pursue these roles, then this stuff should be not incentivized at all by any amount of conservative influencers, conservative movement.
Right. And the big point that we might be glossing over here is this. What's the company called? Endeavor? Yeah, I see Endeavor. It's all over this TikTok right here. Um, they prioritize hiring women. It's like their main open goal. And when you prioritize hiring anybody based on sex, race, sexuality, you're obviously not hiring the best, most qualified. And that's the biggest issue and why it's worth pointing out at least. Um,
Right.
let's
Well, you
see.
just look at it from a very basic, math problem of like what is the population density. Well, if it breaks down, it's way different now than what it should be, and it's unfortunate. But you look at it from the aspect of there's like say let's go estimates, right? 70% white, and then out of there is a good percentage of 50-50 male, 50% female. But then you would imagine that you should see that same reflection then in every kind of job if they're hiring on merit, right? You should see that kind of similar, like 7 out of 10 pilots should then be white, and then leaving the other 3 to be maybe one black, maybe one Asian, maybe one Indian. That should be the followed trope. If we're based on not on race, it should actually fall closer to what the averages you see in the country are.
In the
But that's not what we're
population.
seeing. I mean,
Right.
you go to the last time I
I
went to
mean,
an airport, it's all staffed by black people. I mean,
well,
I'm
it's
not
like the
even
only
joking.
exception. Yeah, I hear you. The only it really is. The only exception is like professional sports. You know what I mean?
Yeah, with
That's
like
like the
niche
only
markets like that.
right. That's like the only real like true acceptable exception in my opinion. Um, but part of that is because they're recruiting out of country and things like that. So you can't look at basketball and be like, oh well, why is there 6 or 7 black dudes and one Asian dude or one white Russian dude or whatever on the team? They're 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 recruiting all over the world, and even with baseball and stuff like that. Less so in the NFL, but um,
Well, Cooper DeJean's going to change that for the NFL. We
well
got our
for
white
cornerbacks.
Jackie Robinson, man.
Now that Dirty Dan Sorensen is retired, you got to have another one.
He broke the color barrier, dude. That was the most exciting part about the Super Bowl.
See here. Oh yeah, just me mentioned. Do I believe women could be an excellent pilot? Yes, or a woman could be an excellent pilot. Yes, I do, but only if they have the same training and have to ace the same tests. And sorry, it jumped on me. As the male pilots do, DEI is never the answer. Exactly, and so that's why like it might come off like we're trying to rag on the women. That's actually not what we're doing. We're pointing out the anomaly, or I don't even know if it's the anomaly, just the open, blatant hiring for DEI. You know what I mean? And not necessarily in how we see what happened there. The jet, thankfully, it didn't catch on fire, because if that thing catches on fire, if one of the engines hits, all those people are dead instantly.
Right.
So they got lucky, and just because they got lucky doesn't mean they got a free pass. Oh, and House with a $20 super chat. What's up, House?
Yes, I can already say that. Thank you for the big super chat, House. I appreciate it very much. He said,
Appreciate that.
congratulations on the move. Yep. Donnie shamed me so bad about my wallpaper. I turned all my lights off. That'll be the move going forward.
That's why he's sitting in the dark, is because Donnie shamed the wallpaper.
No, I just got to get better light system. It looks awful. The light I have is like directly right behind me and above me. So when I have it turned on, it like darkens my face.
Oh,
So it's like it just looks awful unless I have like this bright screen on. But thank you again for the super chat. I appreciate it, brother.
yeah, definitely, dude. That's nice of you. My light is like right here, just a little bit behind me. And then I have a light in my face, and a lot of times I have the second light in my face, and then I have like a little like other spotlight looking thing kind of pointing off to the side, trying to balance out the light. It's not as easy. Not as easy, because then you gotta like balance what you're looking at, because you don't want to just stare into a bright light for 2 hours.
Right.
But thankfully your screen's bright enough that it's highlighting like your whole face and stuff like that, so you're at least
Well, thank you, Titan. I appreciate that.
Titan.
Thank you very much. Another big super chat to make
Yeah.
this somewhat worthwhile stream for your labor. I do appreciate that. Me and World were actually on the phone for about an hour right before we went live, making sure we were on the same page. Because I'd been noticing our thumbnails and titles have been like almost completely different. I wanted to make sure we aligned them closer together, that we were both like on the same page. But I do appreciate that very much, Titan. Thank you, brother.
Right. Definitely. It's awesome of you guys. Sorry, I'm sitting here battling the cough still a little bit. And unfortunately, I don't know if you guys, those of you that caught the show with Dirty Money on Saturday, he's been sick. He hasn't been able to stream. He put out a little video this afternoon, and he sounds like he's not doing good at all. It's a bummer.
Well, I think what I was going to say. Well, I don't want to. Well, when you deal with the garbage all day, I think you probably do have a higher chance of getting sick from stuff. I know. Gloves and such, but
not even just from the garbage aspect from it, but just you're going house to house, like all that contact with every single like household,
Right. Yeah. So hope you feel better though.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I was coming here when you guys were going live. I missed that show because of our move, but I caught it later in the day. And man, I was really proud. He came in and he was like, "I like Myron Gaines," and I was like, "Yeah, bass brother, W Myron."
Yeah, for sure. I don't think I posted it yet, but I made a video of him just crushing. Oh, we talked about that already. Crushing Rabbi Shmooly, whatever his name is. And man, it's a good one. I'm actually looking forward to posting that. I probably would have posted it today. I only got one video out because we went car shopping. We started off shopping for Teslas, but we settled on a Ford Mustang Mach-E. So I'm in the electric vehicle game now, and it's kind of cool. We'll be able to charge it off the power we get from the solar panels on the house. And clown rabbi, dildo rabbi.
Yeah. Your average kosher Jewish dildo salesman who works with his daughter. Yeah.
Selling sexual toys. Yeah, it's some messed up stuff. But yeah, be on the lookout for that video. It's definitely it's a great debate. There's not a whole lot of yelling. There is a part that I had to cut out because they're both just talking and you can't hear anything. But it's like the rabbi makes a good point. Well, first off, Zuby makes a good point, and then the rabbi makes a good point, and then Myron Gaines just crushes it. And it's nice when the debates like make you think. Like you're like, oh, okay, he's got the point. Oh, well, that one was good too. He's got the point now, and we kind of it was a more enjoyable debate, especially once they start getting mad at each other. That's always fun.
Yeah, the best Piers Morgan shows is when he just shuts up and everyone else talks.
Yeah. Well, yeah, for sure. But sometimes he'll go on the rants too, and he'll be like, he has like a hard stance against men and women's sports and stuff like that, and he'll get the. It's funny because anytime he does that, then they all start calling him a MAGA Trump supporter, and he's like, "Dude, I wrote a column for CNN for 10 years. I am not a Republican." So it's funny.
Yeah. Every so often, broken clock can be raised twice a day.
Yeah,
Twice a day.
exactly. Even though he's not that often, but yeah. Tix Bomber says, "I'm told gay is synonymous with electric cars." LOL. You're not the first person that's mentioned that. I'm making electric cars masculine again. We're no, I tell you what though, actually driving it home, that thing has got some power, and it goes like 320 miles per charge. Like it's going to be a good scenario for us. We've been driving the big Ram Rebel around, and it's a gas guzzler, so it'll save us. It'll save us as far as that goes.
Next stream, you're gonna see a massive like Ford logo over here in the corner. Like, oh, now I see why you bought it.
Yeah, Layman said EVs are underrated for speed. Yeah, and the pickup, it was a little. It had been raining, and so I was a little bit hesitant to, really punch it. But there was a nice little straightaway that I went ahead and let her rip. I didn't even floor it, and it was cool. You could feel the car like raise up, like just the energy, like raised the car up and stuck me back in the chair. I'm like, dude, this is awesome. I like it.
I want to remind everybody too, make sure you smash the like button on both Whirl and I streams too. Helps us out very much. Tells YouTube that people should watch this content.
Yeah, definitely.
And if you don't, you're kind of gay.
Share this. Just send it to your group chat. They don't even have to tell them what it. You don't have to tell them what it is. Just send it, and then they'll click on it and they'll see how much they like the show. And
one like equals one more chance World takes that electric vehicle back and gets a real man's car.
Well, I got 5 days, so never know. No, but I've been. It was funny. I had a conversation with a buddy the other day, and I was like, he was looking at an electric Hummer. And I was like, dude, I wouldn't buy anything electric other than Tesla. So, and we were actually already kind of shopping. And then we started looking into other options because we looked hard at Teslas. And the Tesla pissed us off. They actually stole $250 from us, basically. The bait and switch. We gave them a $250 like deposit to like reserve a car, and it had like the whole breakdown of what our payments would be and everything. And then as soon as we hit submit, that whole breakdown of the payments and everything switched and like doubled. And it was like, wait a minute, give us that money back. And they're like, nope, it was non-refundable. It's like, okay, well, now we're going to look at other cars because y'all are pretty messed up.
Yeah, that is annoying.
Yeah. They were trying to factor in like gas savings and a bunch of stuff, but it still calculated into a lower payment, monthly payment. You know what I mean? And so it's like, I'm going off of what you showed me.
Yeah. That is annoying, though.
Yeah, so we were like, well,
made their money off of you, man.
Yeah. I was like, we'll see what else we can find. And then this car is pretty awesome. It does the self-driving on the highways, and anytime they get the new update, you can literally like update your car and it kind of turns into a newer vehicle again or whatever. It's like, I like that concept.
Does it do that thing that Tesla used to do where it won't even let you drive until it's done updating?
I'm pretty sure that's how all the EV updates do, but I'm not 100%, to be honest with you.
Like you got someone chasing you and it's like, come on. And it's like 79%, 80%. Like, please, like just low.
Knights of Gideon said, don't plan on taking any long trips with any speed. Yeah, that's the thing. My wife's a realtor. She drives all around town, and it'll be nice to be able to charge it off the house, off the solar, and literally just get free gas and not put the miles on the truck either and waste the gas at the same time.
Yeah, especially most trucks get like 14 miles to the gallon, dude. You'd be killing yourself doing anything long distance.
Yes, she was saying the other day, it's like every time I get in here, I got to go fill it up. And I don't know, it's probably like $70-$80. I'm not sure exactly. It's a lot. It's too much to be filling up all the time.
Yeah, it'd just be freaky though. You get in your car and it's like, hello, world. I heard what you said about COVID. And it's like, what is my car talking to me for right now?
Well, the thing that threw up a red flag to me was apparently Teslas can seal like airtight. And I'm like, I don't like that idea. Like, I need to have like a window breaker from the inside just in case, like, get a malfunction and start running out of oxygen or something.
They made that feature after that guy blew his Cybertruck up in front of Trump Tower. Yeah, we're gonna make this less lethal.
Yeah, exactly. Knights of Gideon. Yeah, you're right. Doing a cross country trip is you can't do that electric. You're gonna spend too much time, first of all, looking for the charging stations. Combine that with the time you got to wait charging. I can't do that. When I go across country, I'll like I hope this isn't like vulgar or whatever, but I'll pee in a Gatorade bottle until I'm running out of gas in the car. Like no bathroom stops until we have to actually stop to get gas.
I feel it.
So it's like I can't do it like that.
But dude, road trips. Listen, I will drive 20 straight hours before I get on a single plane in the next forever. Like I'm telling you, I mean it. Like I would never get on a plane again.
Yeah,
I'm already terrified of heights. Like, don't get me wrong. I'm kind of a coward about it. But man, dude, seeing all this stuff too, like, nah, man. My last moment ain't going to be me, my face mashed up against some big fat dude. Like, nope. Sorry, dude. Like, I'd rather wreck on the road somewhere. Like, not a chance.
TNT said, "Worrell is why 7-Up bottles are yellow on the freeway." Oh, that's funny. Let's see here. House said, "Did I keep a gas car? Don't want to get stuck on the highway needing to charge next hurricane." Yeah, I still have the truck. It's a 2019, and then we have a Charger that's from 2014, a Dodge Charger, and it's only got like 50,000 miles on it. And the truck, I think, only has like 25,000. So we got two other cars, but we didn't do any trade-ins. This was a good deal. It was 0 down and 0 interest. So, I mean, can't really beat that.
Right.
They made it a little too easy, honestly, but I'll take it.
Right. Well, no, to I guess to just finish this topic up though. I don't think you put on screen. We didn't say anything yet.
Yeah,
like somebody's like close to the situation. It's got like almost 2 million views at this point. Said like he wasn't going to disclose any information because they haven't disclosed it yet. But if you look on that text messages there, there's somebody close to that situation, and they're essentially saying, woman just got her ATP, which is the license to fly. And so I saw he further explained that she'd only had it for a month. So the person who flew this plane had only been certified for 1 month and crashed. So if that's indicative of how poor the training is, it's just terrifying, man. Again, another reason to not fly.
If it's indicative or representative of what we've seen in the past with some of the other industries. I know I've told the story about my buddy that was trying to get hired on as a mailman, and I mean, I think he took 10 months out of his life trying to get all certified and pass the tests and stuff. And then you come to find out that if you're a woman, if you're a minority, they automatically like bump you up a grade. So even if he scored like an A, like he literally would have to get 100% on the test to be equal with somebody that got a 90% on the test. And so he was always automatically passed up and wasted pretty much a year of his life. And if they're doing some type of like curve, training on a curve, testing on a curve when it comes to her getting her ATP, that's not good. You know what I'm saying? If it's represented by, if it's similar to what they did with the mail service, basically, once again, not hiring the best and brightest and most qualified.
Right. The era of flying is over.
Just me says, I tell you the truth, I would not be flying anymore. I prefer road trips anyways. You two aren't the first people that I've heard say that lately. One of my friends was actually in here earlier, and he said that as well recently. And I'm right there with you guys. Yeah, the helicopter crash was a woman. I think it was an F-35 crash was a woman. It's starting to be noticeable. I don't know. Was the F-35 crash one the one where the person ejected? I didn't hear that one was a woman, but Yeah, they've made flying. TNT says flying has sucked ever since they got rid of smoking. Not because of the smoking aspect, but just because the higher they regulate it, it's just become, more cramped, more seats per cabin, more expensive for the extra baggage. The carry-on stuff doesn't even make it to the carry-on little compartment above. When I flew to DC and back just recently for the inauguration, we had our carry-on bag, which was within the parameters, but there's no way that thing would have fit in the overhead carrier. Those little cabinets or whatever that open up over your head. And we had to like check them in the airway or what not the runway, the jetway or whatever it's called. And then get them back from the same spot when we got off, because then they just throw them underneath the jet or whatever. And it's just like, I wanted to carry this on because I didn't want it down there being rattled around with all the stuff. I know Tim Pools mentioned that, their camera equipment is so sensitive, it can't be jostled. So they'll carry it on. So then they have it like on their person and they can control it a little bit more. And, I'm sure there's many things in life that are like that. And it's like, I can't have this scenario. So yeah, flying is for the birds, so to speak.
Yeah. Well, imagine weighing like, for me, I weigh like, 200 roll, what is it now? Like 245, probably like closer to 250. And then I got to pay for an extra $50, 50 pounds of like luggage. But meanwhile, the person who checks in behind me is 410. Yeah, it's like they need to pay for the extra 150. They got on them persons like right now. It's like, or make mine cheaper, right?
Mm-hmm.
If we're going to go by weight and such too.
Right. Well, I've always been a skinny dude. Not as skinny as I used to be, but like I always would end up getting stuck in the middle seat between like two fat people or something. And it's like, man, if a person any bigger than me was in this chair, like they wouldn't be able to do it.
Well, what's crazy, Layman said, his destinations aren't good for wheels. I honestly don't know what's scarier, being on a plane that's crashing or being on a boat that's sinking.
Oh, dude.
The
Being in
ocean's
the
terrifying, especially
Yeah,
like in the
being in
middle
the
of the night or
ocean.
something.
I haven't been on like a big cruise, like like uh, the big ones, the Royal Caribbean or whatever. But I've been on like a little one where it was a 7-hour cruise, but it was really just like a way to travel from Fort Lauderdale to the Bahamas. And being out in the middle of the ocean and looking around and not seeing any boats, the water's all deep and black. It's like, um, I really
Somebody
hope
clip World
nothing
Series
bad.
Deep Black.
Really hope nothing happens, because this would be some scary shit, especially at night, man. Think about those people on the Titanic,
Right.
just pitch black in the middle of the night in the freezing cold water. It's like you'd be like blowing your little shark call whistle trying to get eaten faster.
I mean, dude, there's like I just saw this the other day actually. I can't remember where this museum is at, but there's like a spot in this museum where they have like this little pool of water. And inside this water, they actually I don't think it's for sure like the actual freezing temperature, but they do something to make the water in it as if it was the same temperature the water was the night the Titanic sank. And
Mhm.
like nobody's made it past holding their hand in that water longer than like 40 seconds. It's like nobody can even reach a minute in holding their hand in that. So it gives people
Dang.
an idea of like how just like extreme that kind of stuff is.
Oh yeah. Ooh. Yeah. No thanks.
Right.
Let's see here. What is this one? This was accompanied with that.
I think it's just verifying the
Open
dispatch remarks there.
wing on ice, wet runway, landing analysis remarks. Okay, yeah, I can't interpret that one.
Yeah, well, I think that was just the thing that was verifying that they notified that there was a failure to get the flares out, like you had mentioned earlier.
Right. And I see this right here. I mentioned at the beginning, breaking Delta Airlines is offering $30,000 to each passenger aboard the plane that crashed upside down in the Toronto airport. Those pilots are not men. That's a pretty funny meme, actually. They are not real. Oh, that's
Yep.
another one. I already pulled that one up. All right. What's this last one here? We got one more saved. Let's make sure we show this. Then we'll move on to the next topic. Oh yeah, this is some more different footage. They obviously knew how bad the scenario was, and they came out and started just hosing it down because they knew if a fire started, everybody was toast.
Can you imagine someone comes out of there and they're just like, they're angry, like, where's the pilot? I'm gonna whoop that dude. Come here, dude.
For real. There probably was somebody. They probably had to usher the pilots out of there, like keep them away from the rest of the people.
Yeah, like it's like paparazzi. They're like hiding them. There's people like covering who they are.
Right. Let's see. What was the other one? You know, I didn't actually save it, but there was a somebody took a video as they were getting out of it, and somebody yelled, "Put your phone down." It's like, man, I'm okay. The plane's on the ground now. But there's some crazy stuff. You don't see that every day. Upside down.
Right.
Then we got this little highlight here. This is February 6th from 2025. So this was just 2 weeks ago. Delta Airlines doubles down on commitment to DEI initiatives. So they were like outwardly and openly, promoting their DEI initiative, probably trying to get Democrats to buy their tickets. They probably saw it as like a marketing ploy, right? The airline announced.
I mean, but I mean, are there people who really get on planes because they're like, I really want to board this plane because women are fly this one? There's no men that fly planes here. Like what? You know, like, is that really like a solid marketing ploy? Maybe it is. I'm not saying it's not, but at least to me, it's like mark and avoid. Okay, no Delta, like not trying.
Right. Yeah, I think just me. Think about it. You could have serious medical issues for the rest of your life. 30,000 is supposed to cover everything. Yeah, no thanks. I'm hiring an attorney, and we're gonna get some money out of you.
Well, you know, that 30,000 probably didn't come with just by itself in a check. That 30,000 they gave to people was probably a very quick effort to get ahead of it. And that came with a disclosure agreement that said, if you take the 30,000, you can't sue us. So they probably try to get as many people as possible to do that. There's probably only a couple who maybe declined it, thinking in advance they would sue for more than that.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. I mean, 30,000 is not, it's not something to laugh at. That'll help somebody. Inject $30,000 into anybody's bank account. They're gonna, it can make a difference. But no, it's definitely not enough. They make $30,000 in a freaking, a blink of an eye when you're talking about Delta.
Right. Exactly.
Let's see here. So moving on, U.S. designates multiple cartels as terrorist organizations.
Yeah, this sparked a little bit of debate on X.
Yeah, starting off with this post here from Elon, where he retweeted this. I'm sure this is them declaring them as terrorist organizations, and he's saying that means they're eligible for drone strikes. And what he retweeted was breaking the U.S. State Department under President Trump has officially designated the following as foreign terrorist organizations: Tren de Agua, MS-13, Sinaloa, Jalisco, United Cartels, Northeast Cartel, Gulf Cartel, and the Michelin family. I don't know what the Michelin family has to do with anything, but the Michoacan family. Sorry. Thought they were going after the tire company.
Well, what sparked the debate here is exactly what Elon's saying right there. It means you're eligible for drone strikes. House mentioned this earlier, and you can see that top comment from Ian Carroll there, which I think a lot of people agreed with based on how many people liked his comment there. I'm a staunch proponent of no, there definitely shouldn't be drone strikes happening on U.S. soil. Funny because Laura Loomer says Palantir just had an orgasm. Yeah, and this is what I would say too. You got to get in front of these things. I can remember a time period where people were behind the Patriot Act.
Right.
How did that turn out for American citizens? You know, it's
Mhm.
like it kind of follows the Miranda rights, right? Anything you can and will let the government do, they will use against you. That is basically the kind of rule there, and so you got to get in front of things. You know, making them eligible for drone strikes. No, I mean definitely not striking areas here in the United States for getting the cartels. We just got to do what we've always been doing, right? Which is spec op operations. Navy Team SEAL 6, get guys in there, take these guys out. It's a bit different with the cartels because cartels are kind of like snakes. You chop the head off, two more grow.
Right.
You got to be really, really efficient with it too. Destroy them from the inside out. Get snitches. Get rats in there. There's high cost to this too. Cartels do very, very brutal and grotesque things.
Mhm.
But in no way, shape, or form would I be behind what Elon is saying there, which is eligible for drone strikes.
Yeah, I'm
And the
not.
implication there is they're all here in the United States. So
Right.
outside the United States, yeah, dude, bomb whatever you want in Mexico. I actually really don't care. But not here, not on U.S. ground.
Right. I was thinking one of the best ways to actually fight the cartels would be to cut off their resources. Whenever their grow operations down in Mexico, their drug production facilities, um, any of that type of stuff. Obviously, you take away their money, and Trump is notorious for that. I mean, he weakened Iran the first time around, which weakened ISIS and Hamas and Hezbollah. I don't know about Hamas, but Hezbollah, and almost to the point where they weren't even around. And so you would think cutting off their money sources would, uh, you know, you're the leader of the organization, but then you don't have your income, get your income, whatever your sources got cut off, like almost 100%. How much loyalty are your guys going to have to you after that? You know what I mean? It almost kind of
Right.
dissolves when the resources dry up. So I think that would be a good place to start, and then um, that would help with the human trafficking issue that we have. Although Trump's border crossings are down some like 90% or whatever, but yeah, now it's probably about fentanyl and human trafficking. Yeah, I think that's the main two. The legalization of marijuana across the United States hurt that game, the illegal game a little bit. Um,
Right. Well, that's TNT's spot on there. It's fentanyl and human trafficking. It's kind of moved outside the bounds of weed and anything on the kind of the smaller grounds. The real thing here is there's got to be a will behind it. It can't just be a lot of the smoke and mirrors what we're getting and floating these things out. It's like, yeah, it's great, it's cool. They're terrorists. I mean, implicitly they already always were. But we need to see some action here. Less so about like what's wrong about the border, but more so about like actually literally eliminating some of these people. And I mean like that in the absolute sense.
right.
These people are committing insane amount of atrocities. um I can't call them war crimes, but I mean crimes against humanity with a lot of the stuff they do and drag people through. They videotape it. They
Certainly.
run a lot of underground networks too. And then you think in with the human trafficking aspect as well. That's why it's important that we actually not only just have a strong grasp on our border, but we actually do very extreme measures when it comes to the deportations. And that's
Mhm.
what it's going to take. It's going to take willpower. It's going to take breaking into homes. And more often than not, I would imagine they have some kind of defense system set up where they probably do house some of their more important members in a house full of like 20 or 30 women. They probably do some of the kind of the same measures in which a lot of the other terrorist organizations take,
Like
which
what
is
we
put
see
as
with
many
Hamas.
right. Well, you put as many innocent civilians as you possibly can. That way you obfuscate and you make it very, very hard for people to pull the trigger on things. And in that case, you can't do the drone strike anyways, because in no way can you also say at the same time, is it worth killing, 25 innocent women and children, just to get one person? That goes against the BlackRock formulation or Blackstone formulation, I should say, where it's always better that, 10 innocent people go free instead of, or 10 guilty people go free to not let one innocent suffer. And
Right.
that's kinda like the approximate, value system we need to use moving with this.
Yeah, a couple good or not super chats, a couple good chats here. TNT says if they're now terrorists, we can do things with their bank accounts easier. That's a good point. Frees up some of the abilities some of the things that we can do. Six Bomber mentions that if they were classified as an army, as they should be, they would 100% be committing war crimes by legal definition. That's also a good point. And
Yeah,
I
right.
mean, you think about what is that project that Obama ran where he sold all the guns to the cartels, or wasn't it cartels that he sold all those guns to?
The Fast and Furious program, I believe, with the
Right,
CIA.
right. So I mean, when you're doing gun deals at that level, I mean, you're almost kind of required to be classified as a military, setup or whatever. You're selling weapons that are not illegal, but illegal for Americans to own without a tax stamp. You know what I mean? But if your cartel has, the Tix Bomber says, if your cartel has more training and firepower than the actual military of your country, you're an army. LOL. Yeah, it's another
Right.
good point. Definitely. So a pretty wild scenario. I'm very curious. I mean, it's definitely a good thing that Donald Trump declared the cartels to be terrorist organizations. I've always kind of wondered why they weren't classified as terrorist organizations. Nothing I've really thought too hard about, but have wondered in the past, like, why did they? What's the difference? You know what I mean? And so yeah, this is a good thing, and it should allow the United States to counter the fentanyl crisis, which I know is a big priority from Donald Trump and Pam Bondi's perspective.
Yeah, I wanted to say we're at the hour mark. I want to just tell you too before you forgot, because I think we both have memberships to gift out. I could
Oh
do
yeah,
it now while we got people filled in here.
yeah. Let me do that.
Let me go ahead. Let's see here.
I think I have to I can't do it from the studio, can I? Yeah, we learned that last time. I can't do it from within the studio.
Let's see. So I just went ahead and gifted 5 here. Looks like Dietrich, Z-Core Alpha, Bobcat Wolfenstein, Random YouTube Dude, and Shauna was gifted a membership. I'm going to do 5
cool.
more here as well.
People that we actually recognize.
Yeah, right. That's actually good. That was everybody I recognize there. 5 more than gifted out there too.
People that we actually. Sorry if that audio came through.
Evil Elmo, Paul Gardner, and Donnie Brook then also gifted another membership there too. That's crazy that Donnie got 2 in back-to-back months.
Yeah.
Apologize if you didn't get one. I got no control over it, but I wanted to send all of them out that I had every month. I think it's like I'll do that like on the 18th or 19th every month.
Yep. I'm gonna send mine out right now. We'll see what we come up with. Who got them? Noble Savage, Lou Silver, Fernandez T, Robert Whaley, and Infected Mushroom. Don't think I know any of those folks, but appreciate you for tuning in.
Right.
Let's do another 5. Let's do it. Let's see.
Yeah, I can't even see on your end.
Mr. K, Julie Ann, Dustin Buck, Mr. White, and Gray Maynard. We know Gray. He's from Chris's Discord. Oh, Gray. I say Gray Maynard because that's the fighter. Gary Maynard. I do that every time I read his name.
Yeah, it's funny.
That's funny. Great. Gray Maynard is a UFC fighter. So, yep. Sorry if you guys didn't get one. Maybe next month. And you could always purchase one yourself. TNT says I was waiting for Donnie to win one.
Yeah, he did. Well,
And thank you to
like
TNT for purchasing membership to the channel. He's been a member for a few months now, and I'm grateful for that. So thank you, TNT.
Yeah, did you ever update or add any kind of like the extra like little perk things with your membership stuff?
Not yet, but I have been releasing videos, not every day, but usually like my second or third video, I'll schedule it for a couple hours out, but I'll make it available for members to watch right away. And I have had a few people actually click on it. I'll see the number go up in views before it's actually been made public. So yeah, TNT says I get membership only videos. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I did the little proliferation thing. So I got like a bunch of crosses and I made them like PNGs. So like depending on how long you remember, like your cross goes from like very simple to like ultimately it ends in like the super like golden crucifix.
Oh, that's cool. You're gonna
pretty cool.
show me how to do that. Did you just YouTube it or something? Or
Yeah, YouTube and watch another guy who's like monetized told me how to do it.
okay, you might have to
Yeah.
teach me how to do that so I can implement some of that stuff as well.
Yeah, and you get extra access. You can actually like you can make members only like emojis and things too. So you can like add that as well. That way
Okay.
they can use those on stream as well. Yeah, it is a
Yeah.
monetized thing, Nights. The only reason I even have access to it is because I got demonetized by YouTube it was like 2 months ago, and I sent in a video and explained why that was the most retarded thing they've ever done. I didn't break the rules, and then they apologized and then gave me early access to monetization since I'm so close to 1,000.
Yep. Right. That's awesome. Which, speaking of which, we are trying to get you over that 1,000 mark. So make sure you guys hit that subscribe button if you're over there on Atlas's channel.
Yeah, dude, I'm 42 away, dude. I'm so close.
Getting close. One of these days, one of these shows are going to catch an algorithm, and that number will just go.
I'm hoping, man.
So let's move on to the black gay lesbian who is set to play Jesus in Jesus Christ Superstar. Now, admittedly, I don't know anything about Jesus Christ Superstar. I'm not really a drama kid. And I've heard that it's not so, it's kind of, what's the word I'm looking for? It's not so sanctimonious in the first place. But this is just another kind of slap in the face for the gay lesbian.
Yep.
Yeah.
She checks all the boxes, man.
She's even does green face.
Yeah.
But yeah, we got this is the chick from Wicked and probably some other things. And I got this one from Sam Tripoli. This is why I don't take any of the quote hate is on the rise everywhere bullshit seriously. You can't cry that you are being picked on if you are blatantly attacking others. Having a gay retarded female play Jesus is just disrespectful to those who believe he is their Lord and Savior. So if you're going to do that, just know you are going to get return fire. Enjoy it. And that's pretty much what it is. And, you know, these people all feel safe to attack Christianity at every turn. And there's no way in hell they would do this to the Prophet Muhammad, right? You know, for an example.
Or literally any other religion for that
Right,
matter.
or any other religion, but that, you know, they definitely wouldn't I mean, yeah. It's just crazy.
My first kind of thoughts with this. I mean, I have a lot of thoughts, but half of them are safe for YouTube. One of the things I would say though too is, you know, we get on all of these kind of laws, like with HR 6090 and Christy Nome putting them forward. That's all of these, you know, for North Dakota of all states putting forward anti-Semitism laws and things like that. Where's like our anti-Christian laws at?
Right.
It literally makes no sense whatsoever that you would have something like that get on the books first before you would ever get anything put in place that would actually enshrine protections of Christianity, because we are, I don't know, in a Christian nation. And so that's where, you know, you kind of goes, and it gets a little too obvious that it's clear whether you can argue where it's coming from, but the ultimately truth, the consequence is the fact that Christianity is always what's being attacked, because it is what is a threat to the globalist order, to multiculturalism. It is a threat to everything in which they want to do, which is why it's the only one that's allowed to be attacked. It stands in the way for everything they wish to accomplish. That's why it's ultimately, as much as I may not like JD Vance, it was epic to see him point towards Ordo Amoris. And that's the thing where, you know, put it pretty simply, right? We draw the line at races where, like, oh, you're not allowed to play favorites here. But for whatever reason, you know, it's like I don't know about you guys, but I definitely prefer my wife to any other woman that walks this planet. It's just the way it is. I prefer my kids and my daughter to any other children on this planet. I prefer my parents to anybody else's parents on this planet. And
Right.
that ordering of love follows its way down, right? So then it's like my community. I'll always have a special place in my heart for the people who I grew up with, or my home area, my actual literal town I grew up in, over
Mhm.
any other town on this planet. and you extend that, right? I'll always have a better place for my country than I will for any other place on this planet. And the same is true when you go to other things too that you're not allowed to, right? That obviously extends to things like race, kin, family, community, all the way those through. And so, these kinds of ideals in the very context they should be viewed in, it's something that they can't be having. They got to make sure they push the Babel agenda, multiculturalism, and then spit in your face with stuff like this too.
Yeah, for sure. Sorry, I was picking her nose and eating it with my little mouse hand there. Sorry.
Yeah, but why? Why
But I
hurt?
100% agree with you, dude. And shame to say, I haven't actually watched the JD Vance speech that he gave, but I heard it's really good. And I do need just me said gross.
Right. Yeah, Theodore Morris, I don't know if it was a speech, but if it was, it might have been a tweet. Like, he did a little thread about it too.
Oh, okay.
But
Is that
Nancy
what we
Gideon's
have
saying-
here?
No, that's a
Okay.
different section. He was talking about the UK being, becoming Islamist. But Nancy Gideon's saying, it's always open season on Christians because they turn the other cheek. And also
Yes.
you only attack the true, not the fake. Right.
Right.
And even with that too, there's a
That's
very
what-
strong concerted effort inside of Christianity to subvert other Christians. We call them the sewing circle Christians. These are the people where, it's not what you said, it's how you said it. They've adopted the whole thing of modern sensibilities that actually becomes their number one way in perspective and paradigm for how to view Christianity in itself, rather than the opposite, as if it is the absolute, it reigns supreme, and everything else comes second to it. But it is true, right? You wouldn't attack things and hide them and center them if there wasn't some kind of dangerous aspect to it.
Yeah,
for
for
over a
sure.
century. Yeah.
And John says, and what's up, John? Good to see you back. Also, I saw LOL a Marble up there in chat as well. Good to see you. John says, these folks have been attacking Christianity for over a century, and Christians have been conflating niceness with kindness for just as long. The gloves need to come off. I agree. And, I've referred to this already a couple times over this week, but I was just so impressed with Andrew Wilson's debate over being a Christian nationalist and how he wants the culture. And I agree with him, to be honest, to be, to go back to, I wish I could word it as well as he does. You know what I mean? He's just so good at debate and getting his point across. But basically, having the moral Christian standard be the standard across the country and the culture, right? And so, if you step out of line with Christianity, the culture moves to shame you, right? He's not talking about any type of force or using any type of force. He's talking about, achieving this legally through voting and whatever. But it's just, I would love to see society get to the way he describes it. And I'm right there with John that the gloves need to come off as far as fighting back and standing up for this stuff and not just turning the other cheek like everybody, And the funny thing is people that don't even believe in God, don't believe in Jesus, will sit there and they expect you to turn the other cheek when they attack you. And if you don't, then they say, oh, well, why don't you look at the 10 Commandments and what you're doing right now? And it's like, why don't you look at the 10 Commandments and everything you do? But it doesn't matter to them because they don't value it, right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's the whole reason why, the Bible says, love your enemy. It doesn't say love your friend, or it doesn't say you don't have enemies. It says love your enemy. There's clearly a distinction made that there are people who are going to be friends and there are people who are going to be enemies. But to act as if there is no distinction, or that the distinction shouldn't be acted upon, it's entirely erroneous.
Well,
But that's ultimately what you get with these people, right? With what you're saying, they'll quote a portion of the Bible completely out of context, and they say wow, you seem like you're not a Christian. And it's like, yeah, you're an atheist. Like, what are you talking about? Like, it's that meme where it's like, I'm an atheist and I'm not a Christian. I don't believe in the sky god, but I'm going to say this to you because maybe you'll do what I want. It's like, yeah,
right.
that's
Manipulation. It's bullying at its finest. Yeah, for sure. You said something there that reminded me of something, but then I lost it. Dang it. I was going to add something to that. I hate when that happens.
Yeah, right. Well, I was just going to say too, that's why it is a good thing that we do have people like Andrew Wilson, Joel Webben, Stone Choir, just to name a few. Stephen Wolfe is also, one of the top dogs out there as well. In fact, Stephen Wolfe was the one who wrote the book, The Case for Christian Nationalism, and he gets attacked nonstop for it. He might be literally one of the nicest guys on this earth I've ever seen speak. It's where you get people who attack individuals like Raymond Ibrahim, who wrote The Defense for the Crusades, Defenders of the West, and many other books on that too. There's been a very long concerted effort. I think it even goes beyond a century. It's been going on for a very long time to always discredit Christianity and hollow it out into something that's ultimately what they would prefer, which is a very tolerant group of people who ultimately vote always outside of their interest, and adopt something that just simply is not what it should be. It's why you hear many sermons about, salvation and love and all the niceties, and you hear very little about flipping tables and you den of vipers and, the slurs that Jesus would use against people. We kind of, it's this very one-sided interpretation of what it should be, meant to, pull the wool over people's eyes who have known nothing but. And it's hard to even blame a lot of them too. I mean, you can blame them to a certain extent. But if, every church they've ever went to, every pastor they've ever listened to has only ever been this very simplified, easy to digest, simple message that leaves out a whole mass of what Christian context is, then it's no wonder why most people have a very, very narrow frame of what to view things from. And that's how you get people like Andrew Wilson and Joel Webben and Stone Choir. They all get constantly attacked, right? Andrew Wilson gets attacked even more so because he goes on the whatever podcast, and just by proxy of that, he talks mean to women, and it's like, that's all you need. He talked bad to women. Wow, you must not be a Christian. And for one, I wouldn't even engage it as talking bad. It's like, it's just when you see a woman who is very confidently saying, I'm going to be degenerate, I'm going to deny what Jesus said is to be good, and he calls it as such. I mean, that's just basically what it is. He's calling him out. He's rebuking him publicly. That's how it should be done. Especially when you're going to publicly parade yourself around like that, you do view it to be an evil. That's why we have the utility tool of shame. It's the whole purpose of it to be used. And it's just sad because then you see all of the conservative thoughts and all the kind of weak conservatives in name only come out and they say, oh, wow, I didn't know Andrew was like this. This is pretty mean. This is what Nazis do. It's just, it's so a toxic environment to be in.
Right. They've been tainted by the left, essentially, by the culture that the left has created when they come out and say stuff like that. But John reminded me of what I was saying. He brought up that love the sinner, hate the sin, and then love does not mean affirmation. And, that's 100% true. And I was going to make the point that, when, we can't really spank our kids nowadays, right? And I don't even have any kids that are young, but when people spanked their kids historically, it wasn't that they hated their kids. It was that they loved their kids and wanted them to do better. So, applying that towards Christianity and turning the other cheek and things like that, it's like there is a time for tough love, and it doesn't mean that you hate somebody. It means that you're not affirming the bad action, right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's a lot of a lot of very, what I would say, I mean, to the average Christian, it would be an advanced lesson, but I think ultimately one of the biggest problems we've always had is the fact that we don't teach things with historical context. We kind of teach things always like in a vacuum, without kind of reapplying them based on the way they were read and understood in the time period then. And, if you believe it to be an absolute truth, and why that should matter now, regardless of the modern, understanding of morals and principles. Now, one thing in that aspect too would be, guarding the, the angel that guards, I believe it's an angel. I could be wrong. Someone correct me if I am wrong. I know Knight's getting in here. Definitely correct me if I'm wrong. But when Adam and Eve turned against God, ultimately by both partaking in the fruit, they were banished from the garden, and there was an angel who held the sword against them. Do not come in here again. Like that, you are no longer allowed to be in here.
Right.
And that ultimately shows there is a definite use of force there to punish people for their consequences against the sin. Yeah, but if you were to interpret that right, they are being held to the consequences of the sin they partook in. which means like there should be consequences for people doing things. It's not as if God was like, oh, right, you guys feel bad, man. Like, oh, okay, come on back in, get in here, guys. Like that's just like
Right.
that's not how it was. So this tolerance and tolerate everything, turning the cheek, that's what Christianity has become in the broad, shallow sense, and that's just not what it's supposed to be.
Yeah, for sure. So then we go over here to Mary Morgan. She's from the what's it called? What's her
Pop culture crisis.
Pop culture crisis. It's a Tim Cast show, and she posted, "Oh, I know, it's a musical that puts a blasphemous, heretical spin on the gospel story. It centers around Judas calling the divinity of Jesus into question and frames the early Christian church as a personality cult. I know what your lame ass musical is and what it's about, and it's equally stupid as it is evil. Christians are entirely right to find it disrespectful." And that was in response to whoever this person is post. Evan Loves Wharf.
This is the guy who gets like astroturfed all the time. He
Does
posted
he?
on Halloween, not this past year, but I think a year ago, that he was going to start putting out hormones in kids' candies just to like mess them up.
Oh
He's
man,
a
what a jerk.
super strange guy.
Okay, and he posted. He said they don't know what Jesus Christ Superstar is. And somebody said, "Imagine doing this to any other religion." And then he was basically pointing out that they don't know what Jesus Christ Superstar is. And then Mary clarified what it is. The point is, it's a depiction of Jesus Christ, and that's just unacceptable. In my opinion, like it's just they've gone too far. They go too far. Mary then follows up and says, "This goes without saying, but if Tim Rice wrote a Muhammad Superstar musical, we would get fatwa issued for his killing in about 0.2 seconds." And that's a good way of wording it. It's kind of what we mentioned earlier, but yes.
Right.
And that's that disrespect for the Christianity that they have for other religions, but it's because they think that Christians are weak. And it's just a shame that that's what the public discourse has turned to around Christianity, is that it's weak and God is soft. And
well,
it's
I mean, objectively speaking, it is
truth.
I mean, that's why we are where we are right now. It's because Christians have been weak. Christianity is in a very extremely weak state.
Mhm.
I can't remember what his name is, but he called out a while ago and got a lot of flack for it. And I don't even agree with everything he says. I think he's also a little bit weak too. But calling out like everybody who followed Joel Osteen right to hell, being a prosperity pimp, ultimately kind of manipulating the gospel into something that would be self beneficial. And that's what it is. I mean, you look at the fruits of what modern Christianity has brought, and the fruits is an extremely tolerant society that has allowed itself to be shoved into the darkest corners of the earth, be walked all over, and then ultimately be replaced by what I always will call the globo homo jihad, which is this pride stuff, transgenderism, everything that kind of goes along with that too, the multiculturalism as well. And that's what's the most sad. We wouldn't even probably be having all these guys growing up, blowing up like Andrew Wilson and Joel Ebben and the like if Christianity wasn't in a weak state. But men particularly flock to them because they are dying to hear something that has not been cucked and effeminized in such a way that, ultimately debases the religion itself.
Yeah.
Right. And John's completely right here. That's the one that that's the hump that I think we will have the hardest time getting over. I like to not black pill very much. I've gotten better about not black pilling. But when you look at just how hard it is, when you look at the way a household is supposed to be ran, we are so far away from it. And a lot of it is pushed by women who call themselves Christian, who will fight tooth and nail to not fully submit to their husbands. This is probably the largest problem that we will have to overcome. Now, for a couple of reasons. One, when men try to do something like that and they weren't in a good position in the first place, it threatens their sexual access, their overall relationship status with their female, if they were to try to rein in the reins in. I mean, that does come with an asterisk because there
And
are
it-
a lot of men who are also unfit themselves to be in that position in the first place, too. So it's
right,
not just a female problem. A lot of men have been feminized as well.
right.
But secondly, you see
Hence
it in the leaders.
astroturfing that comes out from the uh, maybe it's not astroturfing, but the white knighting, I mean, that comes out
Right,
in defense, like
right,
from other men towards, the guy that's like, no, I want to be head of my household.
right,
Oh, what are you,
exactly.
a misogynist? What are you, this, that, and you know how the insults flow. So yeah, it's
Right.
definitely to your point. And continue. Sorry, I just wanted to add that.
No, you're good. I mean, on that point, for every guy that says, like, no, I will not tolerate feminism in this household. No, I'm not going to push my daughter to go straight to college to take a job. Like I would push her to go to marriage. There's 3 guys in the comments saying, like, wow, dude, what a misogynist. Is this what Jesus taught? Would
Right.
Jesus say this to your daughter? And it's like, that's what you have to combat. And it's going
Hmm.
to take an over exuberant amount of men to stand up and say, actually, yes. And what sucks the most is I think in the ultimate reality, there will have to be a large portion of men who disparticipate from the market entirely because they say, no, not a single one of you are worthy. Not a single one of you will listen. And none of this will change until we quit bending the knee to what women demand of us because we are too weak to overcome our sexual urges and ultimately give in to this servant leadership 50-50 household where we sacrifice authority to be sexually pleased. And
Mm,
if that's the hump that has to be overcome. And
right.
I trust me, I understand it. A lot of guys be ultimately you are victim to your flesh. We all are, but that's the biggest one that men have to combat because it is like our weakest point. It's like, do I really want to hold this argument or do I want to be able to have a sexual intimacy with my wife? And it's like that's the decision you see with a lot of men, and that's what they're faced with today.
Yeah, definitely. Oh, chat moved on me. Titan says modernity has made most of the West that way, sadly. Just Me mentions that The Excellent Wife is a good book that I highly recommend. It lays out the steps for women to submit to their husbands. It's biblically based. So definitely check that one out. Maybe all the husbands should give that one to their wives for Christmas or Valentine's Day or something like that.
Right.
um, let's see here. Uh, Michael,
Michael said, "Oh yeah, you're gonna read it."
yeah, I was gonna say Michael says, real followers of Christ have strength beyond measure through Christ. However, modern Christians are weak. Yeah, yeah, definitely. And that's what we're saying. We're not saying that if it comes off that I was saying that Christians are weak, I meant it the way that you just worded that. You're just more eloquent than I was.
Right.
Uh,
Titan said he's out here friend zoning girls and playing hard to get. I mean, it's good. I ultimately posted in the Discord what I thought was great advice from Luigi. And Luigi's one of those ortho bros. He posts a lot of very kind of Gen Z level content on X. And he makes the point there too, where similar to what I had said, where feminism is a cancer. You have to kill it early on.
hmm,
If you want to not expect that you will have marital issues or issues with raising your daughter down the line and arguing with your wife, you have to kill it early on. You have to be willing to say like, oh yeah, like you want to be a boss babe and all this, like that's crazy, man. All right, well, I guess we're done here, like bye. You have to be strong enough to say that, like, I will not tolerate this modern stuff.
hmm,
The other avenue ultimately is the fact that you have to be like, you have to mine that away. You have to chip away at the feminism and be such a strong enough male leader and role and authority figure in that female's life that is so overtly right every single time that the woman has nothing else to say besides, you know what, honey, I'm wrong. Like, you were right. Now, if you can do that, and you're strong enough to do that, by all means, go ahead. But with way family court is sitting right now and just the dominance they have over the males in that aspect, I think it's hard for me to push men in that direction and say just get married, wing it, hopefully you can win your wife over, break her out of feminism. I think ultimately children are going to be pretty important. That's not something to put them over. um but that's the other avenue. But if you're for younger men, I would give the original advice, which is don't tolerate it whatsoever. Kill it in the beginning, see if she's willing to hear you out on that. If not, move on.
yeah, and don't be so worried about it. Just I don't know. It's funny, but Tix Bomber says, "Quote: You just worded it better end quote, then throws out eloquent. LOL. That's my comedy relief.
That's funny.
I got big words. I've done crossword puzzles my whole life.
I know what that means.
Let's see. Knights of Gideon's in the house. Oh, did he switch over? Oh no, okay. Yeah. Knights of Gideon also posted Luke 14:26. If anyone comes to me and does not hate his own father and mother. Why is it just moving? I gotta read it from over here. If anyone comes to me and does not hate his own father and mother and wife and children and brothers and sisters, yes, and even his own life, he cannot be my disciple. Interesting.
Right.
I like it. Let's see
Well, it's the
here.
true denial, right? It's coming to the conclusion and the reality of which everything around us is tainted by evil. Not to say there isn't good in the world, because there definitely is. You know, God made it and said it was good. But it's ultimately what has overcome the world with sin, everything that came with the fall of man and everything that that means. I mean, our flesh is like inherently tied and bound to the sins of our father, which Adam is the father of all men, or what more probably more accurately, the son of man, I think is what he's described as, where Jesus is the son of God.
Mhm.
We ultimately come from that lineage there, which is, you know, with flawed, imperfect, unable to be on the same level on Jesus without actually having Jesus' sacrifice for us.
Right.
Without him making that sacrifice, we're entirely unworthy to even be in the same, you know, vicinity as him, let alone in the same earth, planet, universe.
Right. And John mentions here, he says, one way that we can push this is to teach young men to focus on their virtue and on building themselves up. Worry about the ladies later in life when they're established like a rock. And that's 100% true. Um,
Yeah.
you First of all, you got to have something to offer to be attractive to a woman. So if you're not established at least a little bit, you're not even going to be attractive in the first place, really, if you're looking for a wife. But
Well,
yeah, to be established like a rock is even more, steadfast. But that made me, when I read that, it made me think of Andrew Tate. And it's like he's so close to like nailing the messaging, but then he's also so far off at times. And it's one of those things where if he wasn't like out there saying get multiple wives and this and that, he could possibly be a strong leader in that category for building young men up. But unfortunately, he has his flaws that taint the whole message.
well, this is a good one too. If you put that one back on screen from John,
Sure.
that whole message, right, is some of what Andrew Wilson gets behind here too, where he will
Yeah.
get pushback from, because when he pushes for the idea that men should be, you know, maybe like 25, 26, a bit more built up, and then, you know, dating women that might be like 20 years old, that's when all of the women come out of the woodworks and they're like, wow, that's so aggressive, that's so perverted. So you get pushback on that. And then, you know, you want the argument there too to be the fact of, if, you know, men do weight themselves, you also want to put it in themselves in a position of which, if they are courting a woman, they want the woman to actually not be having geriatric pregnancies, you know, by the age of 35, and not waiting too long out. And there is also a benefit in the fact of when you do marry someone like your high school sweetheart. And this goes back to the idea that dating has been globalized as well. Dating is not a local thing anymore. I mean, women, you know, who have Instagram, they get messages from guys who are in, you know, take Ohio, for example. They get a message from a guy in Columbus and Cleveland and over in Toledo and then Cincinnati, where before it would be like, it would just be her local circle. And so because of this, it's expanded it so much that we've actually lost the ability of, not really lost, but it's very much harder for men on the same age plane and like the looks matching to actually connect with each other. But it's on that same frame, which is a female is getting messaged by a guy who's 26 years old and like might have just purchased his own apartment. Why would she ever pick the guy who's, you know, just is in his first year of college, that they're in the same age? Like, he
Right.
has nothing to offer her in that
The guy
frame.
has a car, a place,
Right.
money, a job,
Exactly. Right.
and the people. Yeah, exactly. So, um, Donnie's making fun of me. Worrell has all the best words, just can't spell any of them. I can spell eloquent, ELO Quint. All right, that's it.
Yes. Yes.
But yeah, thanks for coming over and hitting that like button on my channel there, Knights of Gideon. Appreciate that. Um, let's see here. John says, yeah, Tate seems to pander to certain audiences and gaslights others purposely. Yeah, unfortunately. But I was thinking while you were talking there, if we could just change the culture a little bit, like on sports teams, like where guys are all together, boys are all together, like kind of in the same place, and they're already like rallying as a team against the other team. However, you know how camaraderie works on a team, a
Right.
baseball team, a football team, whatever, even a wrestling team, even though it's an individual sport, they still have teams, right? And uh, if they could just change that culture a little bit, like maybe in those circles, um, that could be a good starting place as well. Because coaches tend to have more of a lasting impression on young boys and kids and boys as they grow up than their female teachers. And right now, a lot of these teachers are working completely against what we're trying to build and what we think, what our vision of Christian nationalist country would be. We mentioned it before, but they got their blue hair. They're openly LGBTQ. They're openly pro Black Lives Matter. Basically pro socialism / communism / the gay degeneracy, and they're working against us. And these kids spend so much time, so much of their time growing up in these classrooms that it's only natural to kind of be taught. So it would be a good place where if coaches would kind of nut up and say, you know, this is actually what's cool. What that teacher is teaching you is messed up. That's kind of what got me here was I have an uncle that's like that, and he was my wrestling coach or for part of my life for like the second half of my wrestling career. Um, and he was a good influence on me because he would tell me when I messed up, like tough love, but he wanted me to do better. Like I remember I was living in his house and he taught me the proper way of getting out of the shower. This is really weird to say, like he wasn't naked or nothing, but I was living in his house and I was getting out of the
You don't have
shower.
to tell this story.
I was getting the floor all wet. And he was like, dude, get your towel, step out on the towel, dry your feet off, start with your legs, and then you're not getting water all over my bathroom every time you take a shower. And like he had to teach me just like basic things that I didn't even like realize I was doing wrong. And it was just funny, you know what I mean? Yeah, it's just me. He says, glad to hear he wasn't naked. No, he just showed me like when he grabbed the towel and he's like, bro, you put the towel right here, you step on it, you dry your feet off, and now look, the bath mat isn't all soaking wet. And and it was just like, oh, okay. But sometimes you just gotta be told what you're doing wrong to even recognize it or know it. But it was
Right.
just funny because he taught me a lot of things just about working hard. Um and taught me a lot of things about Jesus too and stuff like that. So I remember one time we were painting a house and we were listening to the Bible on audio, and because that's what we did, we painted houses. I worked for him after high school, and this dude came up to us as like a homeless guy, and he started quoting the Bible to us, and it was like, wow, this is really weird. We ended up giving him like all the change in our ashtrays in our cars and stuff because it was just kind of I don't know. It was an interesting moment. Like we both kind of wondered, like, who is this dude? Like, where did he come from? Is he an angel? And we both had the same kind of thought process without actually like talking to each other. We talked about it later, and it was like, huh, we're on the same page. But um, point being, he was a coach. He influenced me heavily, and his influence was a lot stronger than any of my teachers. You know what I mean? And I think coaches could actually really be good for that. Maybe I don't know who else really. I think that would be a good starting place, to be honest.
Well, to pick up on what you're saying, there are two things. The first one I would say, that's what we're kind of pushing back against, right? It's and I'll say this a million times. It is not a matter of a religion or no religion that ushers society. It's a matter of which one, and that's what you were saying, right? Which is it is treated. If you say like, man, gay people probably should stop being gay, like that's considered that's modern day blasphemy.
Right.
That's what you'll get canceled for. That's what you'll get attacked for. So the God of modern society is the God of this multiculturalism, DEI, whatever you want to call it. I always call it the global homo jihad. And that's why Christian nationalism must be what's pushed. it must be encouraged that men who are Christian need to assume the roles of power. They need to assume places in which that they can actually enact upon the values that they believe and are also aligned with godly values, biblical values too.
Mhm.
But the second thing was there's a comment that we missed a little bit, and I think that actually matters too from House, and you have to scroll up a bit to find it. But House Leotardo says there's 3,000 different Protestant sects in the U.S.,
Oh yeah, I
each
saw that.
believing they are right. How can we stand up when we don't even agree with ourselves? Now, this is also a good reason why I have actually had a lot of issues with Protestantism. The lack of an actual kind of structure that exists in it too. Now I've went a little bit lengthier on Discord. I know a few people disagree with me on this that are a lot, a lot closer to the Protestant, creeds and scripture. But that is exactly what I see. I see some of the fruits of Protestantism has wrought us this issue of this individual, everyone's their own pope is an easy way to explain it. It's I read my Bible and this is what it meant to me and this is what I think it is. And it's in a vacuum. It's disconnected from what men 100 years ago thought, from what men 200 years ago thought, from what men 300 years ago thought, so on and so forth. And that's why I do see there being a very distinct positive in the fact that when places like Catholicism and Orthodoxy actually do have a structure, a lineage of church fathers they pull from, and they'll read, here's the verse, and here's what St. Thomas Aquinas said about it. Here's what the great St. Peter had said about it, and further context that goes even outside the bounds of what is just in the Bible. Not to say that, the Bible is not independently good in of itself, but to say that do not look anywhere else and treat it as like the standalone thing that's when you get into the problems of exegesis, where any person who can go to plan a church and they have a Bible in their hand, but they can just read off whatever they want to, and they can make whatever interpretation they want,
Mhm.
ultimately void of the context that surrounded, void of the understanding of why did Paul say this, where was he at when he wrote this, and what did everyone who from the last 2,000 years say about this verse, and taking
Right.
that understanding. But we kind of like chop it off and we read this amputation of it and we separate it from everything else. And what ends up happening is we take that shortened cut off verse and then we look at it through the modern sensibility interpretation of it and we try to
Right.
apply it then, and that's just not how it works. There's a
Right.
reason why the other two churches have kind of stood a bit stronger in the test of time, although every church has its problems, but they're stronger in their very distinct interpretations of what the verses mean. Whereas what House points out, there is a 3,000 different Protestant sects. There's Mormonism, you have the Quakers, you have Presbyterian, Anglican, Baptist, Methodist. I mean, you can just go, because they all have formed their own individual kind of interpretations, and then those lineages only go so far. Like they're like the newest church.
Mhm.
The issue you run into, and I agree with Titan on this as well, is the fact that basically Protestantism is American. So the other two are actually kind of foreign to us. Whereas Catholicism is a bit more European, that's closer. Orthodoxy and Eastern Orthodoxy is definitely foreign to us. So when we're trying to look at something in a case of Christian nationalism, it's hard to then kind of reapply Eastern Orthodoxy principles and sacraments to an American nation when Protestantism is American in itself, it is Western. So there's like a lot of issues that go in that too.
Right. And to go back to what your earlier point was a little bit, you were talking about kind of how like going back and like a person's own like interpretation and things. It's important to also understand um the how the words of the Bible were written and what their meaning was at that time. So there's a lot of words they get lost in translation when they put it in English, that we kind of lose um the harshness or the emphasis of the word and the message in the translation to English. I used to have a pastor, he's retired now. He actually just retired at the end of this last year. And he could read um what's it called? He could read the Bible in the original text. Was it Latin or something like that, right? And he would be able
Aramaic.
to Aramaic, yeah, he would be able to give you like, this is how it was written and this is what it meant when they wrote it. and this is the best that I can translate its meaning to you. And I think that was a very important factor in it as well. Not everybody has that access to that type of person, but I wanted to mention that John is crushing it in chat. He mentioned that most teachers are women and boys need men to teach them how to be men, not the other way around. He also followed that up when he said, when you factor in the amount of boys being raised in single mother homes, you can see two things are a big contribution to how guys behave in society. You can see those two things, yes. And then he followed that up and said, a woman is likely to pick you up when you fall, and a man is more likely to tell you to pick yourself up, which then just me says a man will tell you to rub some dirt on it and walk it off. And that's true.
Right.
It's like, we've all been there. Get up and you'll be fine.
Right.
Donnie cracked me up. He said, like and subscribe to get Atlas Thug to 23andMe DNA test to prove he's actually white.
I'm actually afraid to get one.
That's funny.
I swear, if I see anything greater than a single-digit percentage of Ashkenazi Jewish, I will close my YouTube out, and you'll never hear from me again.
I'll be a principled individual and quit talking.
Yeah. All right. Well, I guess I'm atheist now, guys. No, totally just kidding.
John mentioned that for anyone looking for information about orthodoxy, the Crucible Discord has lots of good information and a community of guys that will happily jump at a chance to answer your questions. I should check that Discord out. I haven't actually joined any new Discords for a while. And speaking of which, we also have a Discord that you can join, trying to have similar type of conversations. And our ultimate goal is to kind of accomplish what we've just been talking about, strengthening young men and men in general from a Christian aspect across the American society. So make sure you click that link down in the description if you'd like to join the Discord.
Yeah, well, one thing I want to say too, because I didn't actually want to start or ignite a war between like the sects here, because I know we got people from different sects here. I know we do have a couple Catholics, a couple Orthodox, and I think mostly Protestants in here. I am on the side of House in this. I've seen House and Titan go back in a bit forth, and I'm only on the side of it because if I was to explain the modern state of Christianity, it would be chaos. And that's why you would look at things such as structure. You would need structure to escape chaos. Chaos is kind of like the destruction of things. It's tearing things down. But I also do agree with Titan that it's also not just a separation of three to call everything Protestant just because it isn't Catholic or Orthodox is also kind of a misconception too. We do have big sects, what I would call big Eva, which is kind of evangelicalism, which has kind of separated itself from Lutheranism. And you also have non-denominational, which is just any of those are essentially kind of they're outright blasphemous most of the time. You're non-denominational, I can almost expect a woman pastor is leading the pulpit there. But you have to preface it with the fact that every church does have its problems, and I think that's just the reality of it, right? I think that also contributes to the fact that it is a fall of man. Not here to say one is better than the other, but ultimately the consequence of what we're looking at here and staring us in our face is that the fruits of any ounce of Christianity, and I largely blame Protestantism more because that's what has the largest presence in America, as I said earlier. The fruits of it has given us and gave way to feminism. It's given way to degeneracy. And so if you look for the biggest culprits in America specifically of who has put down their guard and allowed these things to happen, well, it would have been the kind of downstream effect of what the Protestant fathers had kind of given way to. Now, not to say there's any one more particular to blame, but if you look at it from an American-centric lens, you have to call it out for what it is. And not to say that makes either one of them more right than the other. But you also have to consider the fact that Orthodoxy is the largest growing sect of Christianity. It's grown by millions of people in just the last couple of years. A lot of men have entirely abandoned Protestantism because it looks like there is no going back. And I think a lot of that does come from what I said earlier too, which is it seems that feminism is too much of a problem for Protestantism to handle because there isn't enough structure and because we will always have to fight this battle of exegesis. I wish it wasn't the case. I do think that on scripture, I do think Titan is right. I think Protestantism does have the strongest claim to scripture being the strongest thing that Protestantism has. But with things like, the middleman aspect, right? That's one problem. People acting as if there shouldn't be any kind of middleman in between you and Jesus, and I don't think there should be either. But I think on a more basic sense, you would always, and no matter what field it would be, you would look to which person could teach you more, right? If I'm learning how to fly a plane, I'm not just going to read the guidebook and then try to fly a plane. You're more than likely going to find an instructor who has a stronger grasp of the material than you do to walk you through it. So I think that's more in line with like natural law. That's more in line with like a natural process, right? That's what you should be doing, like an apprenticeship almost. Um, I'm not entirely for sure the actual specifics of all the different religions. I am someone who's kind of backed away entirely, still Christian, and I'm trying to like see what would be the best one to go with. But I think that follows suit with the fact of no matter flying a plane, I mean, learning how to shoot a basketball, learning how to jump out of a jump, all these kind of things, you would look for someone who had a stronger experience than you to learn from and act as this person who can help walk you through things like confession and such too. Not to say I think that it should be public, but I think that there's clearly a net positive and a clear positive to having someone who has been in the faith for 40, 50 years walk you through when you're 5 years into it. And I think that's just kind of commonsensical.
Yeah, for sure. The main thing, the number one thing that I look for is how much are they using the actual Bible? You know what I mean? How much are they applying, using, and preaching out of the actual Bible? You know what I mean? And then how much of that revolves around Jesus?
Right.
Just be. Oh yeah, I do want to read Donnie's chat. He said,
"Oh yeah, my bad. Thank you, Donnie, for the super chat."
Yeah, yeah, definitely. You look like you could have some Semite in you.
Did he just make fun of you for not speaking right? Like I can't even read what he typed there. You look like you might look like it's
you
like
might could some Semite in you. I hear it's your powerful trait.
That I hear it's a very powerful trait. I heard that it's actually God's chosen trait. That's what I heard.
Just me pushes back a little bit and says that's not actually true. Atlas, the Vineyard is non-denominational, but they are strictly Bible believing. Therefore, they don't have any women pastors at all. And I will say that I've experienced the Vineyard, and I think that they're kind of a standalone exception. I don't know. I've just never experienced church like they do it anywhere else.
Yeah, well, I know I didn't say all, but non-denominational, especially here in Columbus, every single one of them does come at my door with a homosexual and a rainbow wearing individual. Non-denominational,
That's
largely
like the non-denominational type that I mentioned before, where the pastor of that church that I went to ended up leaving the church. Now he's out here selling Bitcoin and saying that he's never been a Christian, or that he doesn't believe in God and stuff like that. So I think that's kind of maybe what you're experiencing a bit of as well, because he was very pro, gay as well.
Well, to every rule, there's always an exception. I'm more talking about the general standard of what you can expect when you hear non-denominational church.
Gotcha.
The main reason they would claim that too would be because they felt they didn't fit in any other of the denominations. But largely the reason for that is because they're like, wait a minute, you don't let gays, you don't like homosexuality is okay. You don't think women doing all this stuff at the pulpit's okay. So that's largely why you see a lot of churches that are like that operate non-denominationally. It's because they distance themselves from the other ones.
Right. Which I think Vineyard particularly is non-denominational because they are doing just that. They're separating themselves from like the religious practices, and they're just focusing on the Bible. You know what I mean? So then they're like, no, we're not this, we're not that, we're not the other. We're just Bible based, non-denominational. We're not Baptist. We're not this, we're not that. And that doesn't, like I said, doesn't apply to everything, but I think that's where they're kind of actually coming from.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you can largely say it like this, like Protestants are largely just stupid. Catholics are very largely just arrogant, and Orthodox are largely just like kind of homosexual in a sense too. So there's each one has like a kind of very broad stereotype that come with them too. So there's problems everywhere as well. And that's why I say this, because it's like we don't live in a Christian society, let alone a Christian nation right now. It's like to find the needle in the haystack of like what is the actual very niche specific difference is like, sure, that might be worthwhile at some point, But when you stare the problem in the face, I mean, our society is ran by a bunch of Satanists, Kabbalists who do things to children. I mean, to me, it's like that's second in priority. The first priority is making sure we can actually pull the reins back in and, not be ruled over by people who believe in ancient, archaic rituals and pray to things like Baal and Moloch and Baphomet and all these other disgusting things.
Right. Just Me says, I feel like we don't really need denominations. The Holy Spirit is our internal guide and the Bible is our map. Knights of Gideon says that the kind of helped me out there. The non-denominational is not claiming the denomination of man. That's kind of, I like how that's worded. LOL a Marble says, I find church with y'all. Thank you. Well, thank you, LOL a Marble. Appreciate you for saying that. Although I don't claim to be a pastor or anything like that, but I do love talking about God and my faith, and I'll never run from that. You know what I mean? Which is why I'm so thankful to be able to do this. I feel like I'm obligated to talk about it when it's brought up. So, but I love it at the same time.
Right.
Let's see here. Just Me says, I've never understood why we had denominations in church. Everyone should just follow the Bible and that's it. Seems like common sense. Yeah. And that's like kind of explained by what we're seeing up above here earlier in chat, where you might not have seen it because it was in Atlas's chat, but let's see here. Where was it? Hal said the church is perfect. The people inside it are not.
Whoa,
and
what did House just call me? No, very accurate.
So you can really tell a church is bad news when they have yoga posters. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Well, I mean, the reason for, the denominations and the separation is always just a very kind of, niche difference in interpretation. Like with Methodists, the reason why they do have like the fire emblem in their logo is they ultimately have like a slightly different, belief and coordination of what they believe the Holy Spirit to enact. Baptists, obviously, it's in the name. A lot more kind of different structure on the way people are baptized. But there's like, between the sects, there's large differences. It was news to me in particular, like with Orthodoxy, has a very different interpretation of original sin when it comes to babies. They have a more tighter belief on things like free will and in accordance with free will. Since children and babies, well, not children, let me actually be more specific with babies, because babies cannot act upon their free will. That's their belief that the babies can't, because they're just not conscientious of it yet, that they are therefore like not, and I don't want to butcher this, people could correct me with a more specific interpretation, but ultimately, like, it's to answer the question of what happens to a baby when it's slaughtered. Well, where does it go? Well, ultimately, because it couldn't act on its free will in accordance with it, it ultimately escapes that kind of guilt of the original sin, right? They never were put in a position in which they could have, acted upon those things. That's kind of a very poor, explanation. If Father Josiah Trenham could give you a better one than I could, maybe even Jay Dyer. But there's, that's why, right? And that's why you do have the denominations. It's because of all of these minimal, and hard to say minimal, but all these differences in interpretation and where they come from. And that's why it is necessary to not only read your Bible, but also understand the historical context. That's why when people make these kind of insane claims, it's like, that means everyone who believed in anything pre-1900, with a lot of these big Eva people and prosperity pimps, well, they have to be burning in hell. I mean, that's some of these times when they come to these different sayings and their beliefs, it's like, well, you just essentially guilted everybody who believed in the faith from 1900 and previously, because they didn't agree with the way that you deny ordo amoris, and you believe in multiculturalism. So what are they, burning in hell? Everyone literally before 1900 is burning in hell. It's hard to come to those kind of grips, but ultimately there are all those minute differences, and they matter all the more, which is, again, to go with Titan, reading the Bible is your best defense, understanding as much as you possibly can.
Right. It's crazy. I mean, like for me, every time I go back and I read something, I'm like, I don't know if it's like I just have more clarity now or whatever, but it's like, oh wow, that's crazy. I missed that before. So it's I I put the wrong thing on here. So it's
Yeah.
it's interesting. We should always be going back to the Bible and always staying fresh in the Bible because it seems like there's always more to learn every time. John mentions, did you guys catch the debate Andrew Wilson did with the LGBT pastor? I didn't.
Yeah.
Just
Oh,
me
I
asking
did.
if that was on his channel. I'm gonna have to try to look that one up. His debates are so good. Titan said buy 40 Bibles. But we are at 9 o'clock. I wanted to show one other topic. I did put it in my title. So I
Oh, yeah.
definitely don't want
Yeah.
to gloss over this, but just briefly. This is a post from Benny Johnson, 6 o'clock this evening, so it's only a few hours old. Massive breaking. President Trump says his administration is discussing giving 20% of all Doge savings back to the American taxpayers. There's quote, there's even under consideration a new concept where we give 20% of the Doge savings to the American citizens. And then Trump says something here, and let's go ahead and play it. Start with the volume like middle.
There's even under consideration a new concept where we give 20% of the Doge savings to American citizens and 20% goes to paying down debt, because the numbers are incredible, Elon. So many billions of dollars, billions, hundreds of billions. And we're thinking about giving 20% back to the American citizens and 20% down to pay back debt and pay down debt. There's even under
So yeah, I would kind of like to know your guys' thoughts on what do you think they should do with some of these savings? Should they just not spend it, not give it to the to the American people, and just not take it from us? Because it's kind of like they're taking it from us and then going to give part of it back. So I don't know. I think for me, I don't need it. I mean, look, everybody needs a little bit more money, right? But I'd rather just not have to pay it up front in the first place. If you can save me some money on my federal, income tax, if you could move towards not taxing my property, I'd be way more inclined to go that route rather than um, have them do some tally and everybody watch it and say, "Oh, save more, save more, save more," so I can get more. Like I kind of get how they're trying to rally people around it in that manner, but we have this counter here on Polymarket. It's Doge's savings. What's Doge has saved the American people so far is 55 billion, 2.75% of their $2 trillion goal. And Donnie making me laugh. Thanks for the two there, Donnie. Not getting a perm, but it's gonna take more than $2 to get me a perm. I'll perm my beard if it's high enough. But
Yeah. We got to get an actual figure so we can have something to aim at.
right, hit my little goal thing, and that be the goal at the end. I'll perm my beard. No,
I'm
but
gonna set one that I'll get an ancestry test if I get so much super chats.
right. So for me, like I was saying, I'd rather them just not take it in the first place. I'd rather them spend more wisely, more responsibly in the first place, and then we should all have easier lives because of that. You know what I mean? So if they got to dangle the carrot for more people to get on board and win people over to Doge, I get it. I get the thought process, but for me, just let me save a little bit. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Let me save a little bit on the front end. Let me keep a little bit of what's mine, and you guys just spend properly defending our country like you're supposed to do as a federal government. And we'll TNT said, "Give it to BLM." No, thank you.
No, I do want to say one thing because I do have to go. My daughter's actually screaming in the other room.
Okay.
What I wanted to say though, tinfoil hat on. As much as we had kind of said with people seeing everything that was going on with USAID, this made me think possibly this is a way to encourage people to actually still pay their taxes and file their taxes. If they're going to get a little bit extra, in their refund, they might get it kicked back to them too. But that's kind of like my tinfoil hat thing on. But I do have to go. My daughter's losing her mind in the other room. So I just want to say thank everybody for being here. I appreciate it very much. World, definitely feel free to continue on as much as you want to. I don't want to hold you up or stop you very shortly.
No, I just wanted to share that last thing. I'm trying to keep these shows hard 2 hours. We could keep going Just seems like we could always easily go 3 or 4 hours if we wanted to, and so we just got to be disciplined and cut it off at 9 o'clock. So it's at 9:06. Appreciate everything. Let's go ahead and call it there. I will say, make sure you're hitting that like button, subscribing to our channels. We're each broadcasting to our own channel, so make sure you click on the other one and hit that subscribe button. Like I said, but earlier, we're trying to get Atlas to 1,000 subs. Appreciate everybody for being here. The chat was excellent tonight. You guys make the show. I really enjoy doing this, and it's mostly because of you guys, to be honest. Like, I love talking about the news and stuff, but you guys make this so much more enjoyable. We got one of the best chats on YouTube. That's the way I see it. And I'm super appreciative to all of you. Thank you for the super chats, Donnie, Titan, and House. Super appreciate you guys. Make sure you guys join the Discord. The link is down in the description. And for me, I think that's all I got. Other than Christ is King. You want to?
Yeah. Christ is King. I won't say all that hoopla about you guys. I just like hearing myself talk. No, I'm just kidding. We appreciate you very much.
Everybody, hey, I'm the comedy relief around here.
Yeah, right. But yeah, no, we'll see you guys on Saturday. Hopefully less gay stuff happens. I highly doubt it. But hope to see you there.
Yeah, good night, everybody. We'll see you on Saturday.
With war rolling Atlas dog, we here to bring the truth. Jar open this podcast, we breaking through the fake news. They try to silence us, but we will be subdued. We're bearded alpha males here to save the youth. Spitting fire on the mic with the bass Christian takes. Exposing the lies, keeping the demons at bay. We ain't afraid to speak up, we won't be swayed. Jar open this podcast, where the truth is laid. Jar openers, cracking open the lies. We're rolling Atlas dog, we're here to rise. Bearded alpha males saving the youth from the godless demons, spreading the truth. We ain't playing games, we're on a mission to awaken the masses with our intuition. Pulling out the corruption with no inhibition. Jar open this podcast, sparking a revolution. We're not afraid to stand tall in a world full of deceit. We're the voice of reason, bringing light to the street. Keeping it real, never missing a beat. Jar open this podcast, where the truth meets the heat. Jar openers, cracking open the lies. We're rolling Atlas dog, we're here to rise. Bearded alpha males saving the youth from the godless demons, spreading the truth. Jar open this podcast, where the truth will never cease. Join us on the journey to bring back peace. We're rolling Atlas dog, fearless in our release. Jar open this podcast, where the lies will decrease.